So we have planned your first term examination and it is already published in Edmodo. If you don't have Edmodo account, please let me know. Then I can I can help you create that. So this is grade 7 English medium 2022 batch. You should be there in this group in Edmodo. And you can see we have already one has already submitted that. I think that is my one. But anyway, so we have already published grade 7 examination paper in the Edmodo. So you can just go through that, log into that and do the examination before the due date is 11th April. That means next week, right? That is your due date. You have to complete that by next week. For those who joined recently or those who missed the initial lessons, so what I can do is I can help you create the accounts, right? If you have not created Edmodo, so please let me know, send me a WhatsApp message. I can help you create the Edmodo account and then you can submit this one, all right? So let's go and discuss the book as soon as possible. Whatever the lessons we have already discussed, let's redo that. We have already discussed few lessons, actually 3 lessons. So I think we need to revise that before you go for the examination, as it is very important. The first thing is that we learn about the processor, brain of the computer. So let's start from that and proceed up to the 3rd lesson and quickly discuss the stuff that we learned there. So this will be a revision, right? If there are any students who recently joined, please let me know. If you have any issue, I can help you understand that. The first thing is we learn about the processor, central processing unit. So that is very basically similar to brain of a person. That is the main thing which help process instructions inside the computer, and it is attached to the motherboard. We learn about that, and it is inside the system unit. System unit, you have motherboard and the processor is attached to that. So it has 5 main components. Can you remember them? So what are the 5 main parts of CPU?
Motherboard, central processing.
Motherboard, no. Motherboard is not a part of CPU. It's wrong. So totally wrong answer. Motherboard is, how come motherboard is part of CPU? Where the CPU resides in motherboard. Motherboard එකට high වෙලා තමයි CPU එක තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර CPU එකේ කැලලක් වෙනවද motherboard එක? එහෙම උනේ කොහොමද?
No, sir.
It's not a part. Okay, what are the parts then? What are the parts of CPU?
ALU.
Yes. What is ALU?
CU. Registers.
Arithmetic and logic unit.
Arithmetic and logical unit. Yes. Correct.
Control unit.
Control unit. Correct. Correct. Yes. What else?
Buses.
Buses. Okay. 3 things.
Registers.
Memory
registers.
Yes. Registers. 4 things. One more.
Clock.
No.
Gate.
No. It is cache memory. Can't you remember? We discussed about cache memory. I even saw that in your computer. Processor එකේ අපි ඇතුළට ගියාම තිබ්බේ task manager එකකින් ගියාම we see how task manager, we went to the task manager and saw the component, not the registers, but we saw the cache memory, right? Cache memory is the memory inside the processor. Okay, what are the 5 parts of the CPU? You need to remember 3 parts according to your syllabus. ALU, arithmetic and arithmetic and logical unit. Consider about the arithmetic operations, mathematical operation.
Logic. So in the exam, we can answer as ALU or arithmetic and logic unit.
ALU is okay, but if somebody asks to explain, then you have to explain. Right, ALU, arithmetic and logical unit, and there basically you have the mathematical and comparison like operations, greater than, less than or equal to, equal to, not equal to, those things are done inside ALU. Then the CU, control unit. Control unit is like a traffic police, sending control signals to each and every device. Traffic police is not driving, right? Traffic police drive කරන්නේ නැහැ. එයා signals යවනවා රේට මෙහෙට. ඒ වගේ තමයි මෙයාලා just go forward, come front, come stop, now turn left. Likewise, he's signaling, similar to that, CU is signaling other devices, sending control signals to other devices. Memory registers we use to keep values and operators when calculating. So that is memory registers. Cache memory is a temporary storage inside CPU. So that is not mentioned in the book, but you need that cache memory. That is a temporary storage in the CPU. Cache memory. And buses. So what are buses? Cache memory and buses. Cache memory is a temporary storage. That is also part of CPU. A temporary storage in CPU. And buses, data paths in CPU. So how you send signal from one place to another place using buses. So buses is the transport mechanism. It is the data path in CPU. Okay, guys. So let's move to the next part. Now we know about the CPU. The CPU can be single core, dual core, multi-core, quad-core, octa-core, hexa-core. What is that? What is dual core? Dual core means single processor has two processing units. Quad core, how many processing units? Quad core?
In units?
4 processing units. Hexa core?
6 processing units.
6 processing units. Octa core?
8 processing units.
8 processing units. Okay. So inside the single chip, so it is possible to have multiple processing units. එක chip එකක් ඇතුලේ processing unit ගොඩක් තියෙන ALU ගොඩක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන් ඒ කියන්නේ. Dual core, quad core, hexa core, octa core are such cores. So based on the number of, here you can see number of cores. Single core, dual core, quad core, hexa core. Number of processing units inside the CPU. Right? Number of processing units inside the CPU. Based on that, you have these categories. Single core, dual core, quad core, hexa core, octa core, deca core is 10%. Right? Likewise, multiple core processors are there. Right? So this is also same CPU, quad core, dual core, hexa core, octa core. So it can be deca core or multi-core. Okay. So the CPU generation, based on that and the technology, we categorize into 5 generations. Can you tell me the generations and their lead in technology? The first generation computers, what was the technology?
Vacuum tube.
Vacuum tubes. The second generation computers, what was the technology?
Transistors.
Transistors. Third generation.
Integrated circuits.
Integrated circuits. ICs. Fourth generation.
Microprocessors.
Microprocessors. Another name for microprocessors? Very large scale integrations and large scale integrations. Very large scale and large scale integrations were there. That is also microprocessors. 4 generations. 5th generation is artificial intelligence, which is again not listed in your book. Fifth generation is artificial intelligence. Okay. So let's remember the things. Generation 1 to generation 4. What has happened to the size? Okay, let's write a summary. Gen 1, Gen 2, Generation 3, Generation 4, and Generation 5. Can you tell me what has happened to size? Size of the computer? Increased or decreased?
Decrease.
Decreased. Size was decreased. Decrease. Aduna. So what else decreased? What about the cost? Cost was decreased. Increased.
Decrease.
Cost was decreased. Power consumption. Yes. Power consumption. Increase.
Decrease.
Power consumption was decreased. Power consumption was
Execution
also,
speed.
sorry. That is also decreased. Which increased? Which increased? Sorry, which increased downwards? Sorry, which increased downwards? Can you tell me? I'm drawing another arrow. So this is
Speed.
Speed.
speed. Speed was increased. What else?
Performance.
Performance was increased. Right? So that is the summary of this lesson. Right? Speed, performance was increased. Size, cost, power consumption was decreased. Okay, let's see. First generation, power consumption was very, very high. Size, very large. Speed, milliseconds. Milliseconds means somewhat slower. Then the next generation, what was the speed? The speed measured using? So when when it is going to the next generation, it was faster. When it is faster, the measurement unit need to be small, right? So that will means the measurement was done using microseconds. Right? Vacuum tubes, it is large power consumption, large in size, and cost was high. But when it come down, so it is measured in milliseconds, but when it come down the second generation, it is microseconds, relatively smaller. Transistor was used, low power than the first generation, but it is also costly. When it comes to the third generation,
Nano.
you can see still it becomes still smaller than the second generation, and nanosecond speed is used. Nanoseconds is used to measure the speed. Cost was relatively low. When it comes to the fourth generation, so very less power consumption, even use batteries, portable, very small size, and use MIPS, million instructions per second, or picoseconds. Right? And the cost was very low, even the personal computers. So here actually after the fourth generation, the fifth generation is also there, but that is not mentioned here. That is using AI, artificial intelligence. Today's computers are using in the fifth generation. So we learn about that. And you can see millisecond is 1 divided by 1000. Microsecond is 1 divided by million. Nanosecond is 1 divided by billion second, and picosecond is 1 divided by trillion seconds. So it is very, very small. Here, 2 positions, 5 positions. Here, 8 positions. Here, 11 positions. Is it 11? 11 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. increase by 3 hari always මෙතන තියෙන බිංදු 2යි නම් ඊළඟට බිංදු 2යි බිංදු 3ක් වැඩි වෙනවා 5යි 5යි 3යි 8යි ආයෙ 3ක් වැඩි වෙනවා 8යි 3යි 11 so just remember the pattern okay then the speed 1 cycle per second is called 1 hertz yam kisi kriyawaliya if something happened 1 per second something like this okay you can see this here please listen to this sound it is happening 1 per second 1 repetitive thing per second so that is called 1 hertz if it happens something if it is something like this can you hear can you hear the sound
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
this here now 2 per second 2 hertz if I increase this now 4 per second right 4 hertz likewise if 1000 such hertz it is 1 kilohertz if 1 million hertz 10 megahertz 1 billion hertz gigahertz the CPU speed is measured in what kilohertz megahertz or gigahertz
Gigahertz.
Gigahertz.
Gigahertz correct okay that is about your first lesson and that is the summary in the second lesson we learn about operating system right okay can you tell me so what is an operating system yes
A software.
operating system is a software correct but not perfect correct answer
Necessary to fulfill the tasks using a computer.
okay that is also a good point software is necessary right still you are telling something around that software is needed to fulfill user requirement okay correct but still not the definition can you define operating system what is an operating system just define it what is an operating system
Controlling hardware and software and providing a user interface are performed by an operating system.
can you repeat again yes
Controlling hardware and software and providing a user interface are performed by a operating system.
controlling hardware and software okay that is correct by providing user interface that is also correct is done by the operating system more simple you can tell it is a middleman between right it is mediator or middleman between the computer's hardware and us why so okay if I show you a pen drive and ask what is in it can you tell me the answer if I show you a pen drive
No, sir.
and ask what
No,
is
sir.
inside it, you can't tell. Okay, let's say if I plug this to a computer with no operating system, nothing is there, just a blank computer. If I plug this and try to see what is inside that, can I see this?
No, sir.
Still not. If I plug this into a
No, sir.
computer, if I plug this into a computer with an operating system, let's say Windows, can I see what is inside that?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that is the middleman put it. Because in the pen drive, what is in it, we couldn't understand because we cannot understand hardware now. Hardware structure is complex, we cannot see what is inside. So we plug that into a computer, another hardware, and try to read that. But still, hardware cannot understand hardware. So still helpless. Now we plug into a computer with an operating system, which is the middleman or mediator. So then it understood there are some movies it's showing now. So operating system is acting as the middleman between us and our computer. That is one definition. Operating system is acting as the middleman with in between us and our computer by providing an interface. That is correct. The second definition is operating system is a resource manager which can manage resources such as hardware, application software, users, processors, memory, files, security, etc. That is another definition. Operating system is a resource manager which can manage blah, 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 blah. Not blah. So you can tell processors, memory, which can manage processors, memory, etc. That is also, and this is also a good explanation, right? Operating system is a middleman, or it's a resource manager which can manage user interfaces, CPU processors, computer memory, storages, files and folders, and users, manage hardware. So that is a big definition, but still correct. So it can manage everything, or it can act as an intermediary between us and our computer hardware. So then we learn about different operating systems, DOS, Windows, Apple, those are, and so Linux-based operating systems like Fedora, Ubuntu, and mobile operating systems, as you see here. Okay, is Linux operating system or not?
It's not an
operating system.
Okay, two ideas. Is it an operating system or not an operating system? So it is not an operating system, but it is operating system kernel. Linux is not an operating system, but it is an operating system kernel. What is kernel? Kernel is like engine of the operating system. Linux is an operating system man nevehi puthe. Eka kernel ekak. Nathang engine ekak. Can engine run along in the road? Engine ekata paare yanna puluwanda puthe nikan?
No, sir.
You can't. Why? Engine needs a lot of other components: gearbox, differential, tires, body, chassis, other electrical components to connect it. So it needs. Okay. Operating system. So do you know what are the operating systems created using this engine, Linux engine? Linux as an engine means kernel. Kernel can operating system make engine. Can you tell me some operating systems created using this engine?
Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat,
Kali.
Okay. Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, Kali.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu, Xubuntu, Enubuntu, Ubuntu, right? Red Hat, then Debian, SUSE, CentOS,
Hantana.
Hantana, Mint. Okay, correct. These are some operating systems based on Linux. Eva Linux right? So these are created using Linux. Okay. So then we learn about the computer storage devices, which different files and folders are stored in these storage devices. There are three categories: So can you tell me the categories of these storage devices, please? So what are the categories of storage devices? Yes, Pute? Storage devices, there are 3 categories. We learned it based on the technology. One is magnetic.
Solid state drives.
Magnetic, optical, solid state.
Optical media devices.
Very good. Magnetic, optical, solid status. Magnetic means, right? Magnetic is basically using magnetism as the basic technology. Example, hard disk. Optical media using light as the technology. Solid state, yes, that is magnetic, correct. Optical uses, you can see the video of whose this video is this Hirusha is showing hard disk, which is a magnetic storage, a partially cover removed hard disk, but after that it is not usable. Don't do this. So it is maybe not working hard disk. If hard disk is not working, you can do with this, but don't remove the cover of hard disk if it is working. Right? We learn about the technology. Api animation ekak balama igena gatta, right? We learn about that. Then the optical media. Api igena gatta optical gana. Light wada karan, light waliin wada karana optical media. Learn about that as well. That is optical storages. The third one, solid status. The solid status devices having no parts, no moving parts. The parts are not moving, like memory cards, pen drives, those are solid status. And even the recent hard drives, hard disks, SSD hard disks, those are also solid status. Right. Then we learn about files and folders. So what's the difference between file and folder? Please tell me. What's the difference between file and folder?
File has an extension and
File has
not
folder.
Yes, file has an extension. Folder has no extensions. File has an extension. Normally a folder has no extension. That is one thing. Another thing, please.
folder can store documents and folder.
Folder can store documents and folders. Then file. File can store data, right? File is used to store data, but folders are used to store. Actually, folders are used to organize other files and folders. Folders are used to organize, right? Folders wala store karanne naha. Folders wala karanne organize karne. Store karna kiyane file wala tama data thiye. File will contain data, file will store data, and folder will organize that files and folders into groups. So that is the difference. And file has an extension, folder is not having an extension. So you can watch this video again because today is not to give the notes. We learn about that. Then we learn about different file operations, folder operations like deleting, seeing the properties. So we learn about that. Copying, pasting, and all. The final lesson that we learn is security of the computer. Okay, now I know it's really hard, right? We have already discussed 2 lessons. Okay, final lessons actually we have discussed recently. Therefore, I'm not going to repeat it again. So because we have already discussed it, but just give me some answers to these questions. So what are the 2 categories of security that you can provide?
Physical security and logical security.
Yes, physical security, logical security. Physical security provided to hardware. Logical security is provided to basically software. Right? Software. Yes, physical security to hardware, logical security is basically to software. We learn about that as well, right? Then the hardware security basically from high power, high voltage, sudden power failure, overheat, dust and pollen, theft-like issues or willful damages, insects and animals. So these are the issues which can damage your hardware. The precautions that you can take: uninterrupted power supply, fuse, and surge protectors to protect from power surges or the thunder, lightning. Fuse is basically protecting from high voltage by actually fuse with burn. We learn about that. UPS will give you a backup time to shut down your computer. And then we learn about cooling systems like cooling fans and air conditioners. And to protect from animals, insects, we need to avoid using food and beverages inside the lab. We learn about that. And also the CCTV camera systems, locks, sealed rooms, and properly closed, locked places will allow you to protect your computer from physical threats. Logically, you can license the software, you can update the software, you can install a malware cleaner or antivirus, or maybe virus guards. And we learn about different type of viruses, and also we learn about what to do, how to stop viruses using low limited user accounts without administrative power. Stop using pop-ups, stop clicking on the pop-ups, and firewalls, antivirus, scan the external storages, blacklisted websites, stop opening the unsuspicious links and suspicious attachments. We learn how to stop that. And finally, we couldn't discuss about these two things, and also type of viruses we learn, right? So this we have already discussed. Actually, last week also we discussed, therefore I'll skip that. And two things to learn, that is backups and access control. So what is backup? What is backup? What is computer backup?
With copy of data and information.
Sorry, take a copy of data and information. Why you take a copy?
Lost our data and information.
Yes, because it will help to prevent in case of loss. So basically, you have to tell it tell it with these words, Pute. So if you keep a copy of your important data, information, software, and all, that is called a backup. If you keep a copy of important files, important software, important files, important data, that is known as a backup, right? So copies keep as backup can be used in case of misplaced, damage, a willful damage, a virus, that kind of case. You can recover from that copy, because copy looks like original, right? Copy is original. In computing, we don't have duplicates. We have duplicates, but the thing is, copy can be treated as original. Copy is similar to the original, except there will be integrity error. Integrity error means the copy is not the original, that we know, but still the file looks same. Right? Therefore, you can replace it. You can keep the copies in CDs, DVDs, external hard disks, or network. We can keep the copies. In case of damage, the banks, in the banks, bankers take daily backups. Maybe hourly backup. Maybe every minute they keep a backup, because so banks are very, very important places. If you lose a transaction or data, that is a disaster. Therefore, they are using these backups. And access control is another important thing. So that is also to prevent from hacking. You can use strong password, unguessable passwords, strong passwords. And also we can use encryption. We learn about that. How can we encrypt? What Julius Caesar does. We learn about that, right? Julius Caesar, actually I said about this story. He used to send his messages right? He used to send these messages to his soldiers through messengers, but he had a problem. The problem is basically, right? The problem is basically his messengers was captured by the enemies, and they used to read the messages and understand war secrets. Right? He used to read the messages. They used to read the messages and understand the secret messages. So that was headache to Caesar, and Caesar decided not to send the plain text messages. He has altered the messages and sent the messages instead of sending. He has changed the message and send the altered, changed messages. It is encrypted messages. Then the enemies tried to read that, but enemies couldn't understand the message. So Caesar was safe. So that is called Caesar cipher. Actually, encryption is something like that. Encryption is where you encrypt the original message and replace some other letters, maybe change the letters or shuffle letters here and there. And you change the original message where the others cannot read the message without knowing the change in algorithm. That is called encryption. And also user accounts, user password, and also biometric mechanisms. Biometric mechanisms means iris scan or fingerprint, face scans, voice scan. Likewise, the biometric authentication can also be used. And also, so here you can see the biometric passwords, different iris, face, voice, fingerprint. These are very important to protect your computers from threats. And CCTV, alarm systems, secure places, safeguard them. Those are the things for access control. Okay, guys, I think we have successfully discussed all 3 lessons just within 40 minutes. Wow. Right? So next week is the examination. I already said how to do that. Please log into Edmodo. If you don't have account, let me know. So go to the classes. In the classes, you can see English Medium 1. Go to that and you can see the paper. So then you can go there. This submission is actually from me. Actually, I have Vidun has submitted it. I still not graded. Others you need to submit. I think you have your account there. Please submit it. If your account is not there, I'll remove the account. If you're not coming to the class, I'll remove the account. Some have not get viewed. Vidun has submitted. Oh, I don't want to disclose the answers. Sorry, it's a mistake. Okay, others can try to submit that within this week. So anyway, next week you have to do the examination. Therefore, we will not have classes. The week after next week is New Year. So next week, please do the exam. Next week, we have the session. For those who have not done the class, we don't think that we don't have the session. We will have the session, but I'll guide to the examination. For those who have not done. Week after next week is holiday, that is New Year holiday. And the last week you have classes, right? So next week is examination day. Please be on time, right? Even though power cuts are there, try to log in using your mobile phone, install Edmodo to your computer. Let's do the examination next week. Week after next week is a holiday. Take your holiday. After that, after 18th, I think 18th or 19th is the holiday. Then after that, only one day. We are taking only 2 days leaves, right? So one day is New Year, the other one is for Christmas. Then after that, you can come to the classes in a regular way. Okay. So, but before the examination, make sure to pay all the remaining dues if you have any, and or get all the notes, all the videos, and do study properly. Try to get the maximum marks. Let's see who's going to get the maximum marks for the examination. Then good night and see you all next week in the exam.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.